3 words to describe the studio. I don't know, I love it. I am Daniel Arsham. I'm a visual artist. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but I've spent the better part of the last 20 years in New York City. We're here in Queens, New York, Long Island City, where I have my studio, directly across from Manhattan. I guess 3 spaces in this building. The main studio production, so all the artwork, sculptures being made, and drawings. There's a more messy kind of shop space, which is for casting, and you can hear the tools being used back there. And the upstairs is more of a clean kind of archive space for meetings. Hello everyone, this is Daniel Arsham. Very happy to be joining and creating my blog here on Xiaohongshu. Well, how did my work get known? I mean, I certainly started my career in an era before social media, 15, 18 years ago. At that time, I would say the work was not that well known. So I took many opportunities that were collaborative in nature. I worked with Adidas on 3 different pairs of sneakers, Dior. I worked with Tiffany recently. All of these other brands for me have been ways of reaching larger audiences for my work. As the models walk over it, they will kind of destroy the perfect gradient. A little bit to do with the idea of destruction and construction, the decay in the letters. In the beginning, there was some critical understanding, at least from the art world, about as an artist, you shouldn't be working with brands in this way. You shouldn't allow them to use your work. But I saw it as I was using them and their reach to get to these audiences which may not be looking at art in general. And this is nothing new, right? Art has always been aligned with business. I think my art should be for everyone. I think that you should be able to find my work in galleries and museums, but also in shops and other places where people can access it in a different way. So this is part of the casting facility here. Some crystals getting prepared. This is some amethyst, which will be going into a couple works, and then various molds in process. These are 3 sort of large bear sculptures that I've been working on. Actually, these are a couple years in production. Some payphones, and up here is all older works. My childhood, my parents are not involved in the arts at all. My father was a banker and my mother worked in a law school. So very different from the universe that I ended up in. When I was a child, I don't know whether I really knew what an artist's life would be like or what an artist really did. I've always had a big desk because I'm a little bit messy in my thinking, so there's always kind of different things hanging around. And then there's usually some drawings that I'm in the process of making. So a bunch of different sculptural materials. This is clay that gets used in the mold making process. Some of the patinas for the bronze works. This is all mold making material here. It's a new piece that we're working on, which is a NASA astronaut that will be fully cast. I was always interested in science fiction and archaeology and time travel. And when we go to a museum and we see an object from the past, we're told a story about this object, right? Where it's from, who are the creators of this object, what their civilization may have been like. Imagine if we're thinking about a camera or a cell phone or a computer, but as if we could see it 10,000 years in the future. And I did this not by taking the object and like painting it to look old. It was more about a material transformation. So could this object become crystal, volcanic ash? And there's something kind of strange, right? Unusual about seeing an object that you know. It's almost like you time traveled into the future, or perhaps the object was brought back, right? Yeah, I think artists' job in the world is really to interpret what we're shown, what we're given, our everyday experience, and to sort of reveal things that maybe just underneath the surface. And the subject matter has always been important. So I've picked things that could be linked to a particular time period. And I've also picked things that I found were resonant in many places around the world. A basketball, a sneaker, Pokemon, these things, you know, whether I show it in New York or Paris or Shanghai, everyone knows what those things are. And in that way, there's a kind of shared language, right? Some of the Pokemon works in process. As you can see, the tails for these get cast separately and attached later. These cameras are for an exhibition that I'm working on in Mykonos in Greece later this summer. And so it's all selections of cameras that I used in the past. 2 old Mamiyas, there's a Pentax back there, a bunch of different things. So when is the moment that I felt like I made it? Well, it might surprise everyone, but I still don't feel like I'm made it. I think there's these different segments of the art world that still are not really accepting of the kind of work that I do that's very diverse. I think the most difficult thing as a young artist is the idea or the fear of some kind of rejection. The good part is that in many ways the rejection doesn't matter. The bad part is that the rejection never stops. I think the other thing is the difficulty of finding ways of creating a career. It takes a very long time and it takes a lot of sacrifice, and the ones who do often are the ones who rise to the top and who are seen. You know, it took me the first 10 years of my career. Until I was 30, I lived in my studio because I didn't have enough money to have a separate apartment. And I think it's easy to look now and say, okay, the studio is running well, and all of these other things that may have made me happy at the time would have to wait.